Hey, you are watching AliAziz YouTube channel.
Most common interview questions and answers. For fresh and experienced candidates. Part #02 Top 26 Q&A. 28 What do you like to do outside of work? Interviewers will sometimes ask about your hobbies or interests outside of work in order to get to know you a little better, to find out what you're passionate about and devote time to during your off hours. It's another chance to let your personality shine. Be honest, but keep it professional, and be mindful of answers that might make it sound like you're going to spend all your time focusing on something other than the job you're applying for. Possible answer to what do you like to do outside of work? I'm a huge foodie. My friends and I love trying new restaurants in town as soon as they open. The more unusual the better. I love discovering new foods and cuisines, and it's also a great activity to share with friends. I try to go out with the same group at least once a week, and it's a fun way to make sure we keep in touch and share experiences even when we're busy with other things. We even took a trip to New York City and spent each day in a different neighborhood, buying something to share from a few restaurants. 29 Are you planning on having children? Questions about your family status, gender, how would you handle managing a team of all men, nationality, where were you born, religion, or age are illegal, but they still get asked, and frequently. Of course, not always with ill intent. The interviewer might just be trying to make conversation and might not realize these are off limits, but you should definitely tie any questions about your personal life, or anything else you think might be inappropriate, back to the job at hand. Possible answer to Are you planning on having children? You know, I'm not quite there yet. But I am very interested in the career paths at your company. Can you tell me more about that? 30 How do you stay organized? Would you want to work with a hot mess? Yeah, we didn't think so. Neither does anyone else. A disorganized worker doesn't just struggle in their own role, they can also create chaos for peers, managers, direct reports, clients, customers, and anyone else they interact with. So interviewers will often ask about how you keep yourself organized to make sure you'd be able to handle the workload and gauge what you'd be like to work with. In your answer, you'll want to reassure them you'd have things under control, both in what you say and how you say it. Describe a specific system or method you've used. Bonus points if you can tie it to the role you're interviewing for, and explain how it benefited you and your team. Just make sure your answer is succinct and, well, organized. Possible answer to How do you stay organized? I take pride in my ability to stay organized, and it's really come in handy in my past roles, and especially the social media assistant job I'm in now. First, I keep a really meticulous calendar for each of the platforms I'm responsible for, using Hootsuite, which I noticed you use here as well, and I try to block off time twice a week to get ahead on creating and slotting in posts. 31 How do you prioritize your work? Your interviewers want to know that you can manage your time, exercise judgment, communicate, and shift gears when needed. Start by talking about whatever system you've found works for you to plan your day or week, whether it's a to-do list app you swear by or a color-coded spreadsheet. This is one where you'll definitely want to lean on a real-life example. So go on to describe how you've reacted to a last-minute request or another unexpected shift in priorities in the past, incorporating how you evaluated and decided what to do and how you communicated with your manager and/or teammates about it. Possible answer to How do you prioritize your work? I'd be lost without my daily to-do list. At the beginning of each workday, I write out tasks to complete, and list them from highest to lowest priority to help keep me on track. But I also realize priorities change unexpectedly. On one particular day recently, I had planned to spend most of my time making phone calls to advertising agencies to get price quotes for an upcoming campaign. Then I did a quick check-in with my manager. She mentioned she needed help putting together a presentation ASAP for a major potential client. I moved the more flexible task to the end of the week and spent the next few hours updating the time-sensitive presentation. I make it a point to keep lines of communication open with my manager and co-workers. If I'm working on a task that will take a while to complete, I try to give a heads up to my team as soon as possible. If my workload gets to be unmanageable, I check in with my boss about which items can drop to the bottom of the priority list, and then I try to reset expectations about different deadlines. 32. What are you passionate about? You're not a robot programmed to do your work and then power down. You're a human, and if someone asks you this question in an interview, it's probably because they want to get to know you better. The answer can align directly with the type of work you'd be doing in that role, like if, for example, you're applying to be a graphic designer and spend all of your free time creating illustrations and data visualizations to post on Instagram. But don't be afraid to talk about a hobby that's different from your day-to-day work. Bonus points if you can take it one step further and connect how your passion would make you an excellent candidate for the role you are applying for, says Muse career coach Aldea. Like if you're a software developer who loves to bake, you might talk about how the ability to be both creative and precise informs your approach to code. Possible answer to what are you passionate about? One of my favorite pastimes is knitting. I love being able to create something beautiful from nothing. Of course, knitting also requires a keen attention to detail and a lot of patience. Luckily, as an accountant, I have cultivated both of those qualities. 33. What motivates you? Before you panic about answering what feels like a probing existential question, consider that the interviewer wants to make sure you're excited about this role at this company, and that you'll be motivated to succeed if they pick you. So think back to what has energized you in previous roles and pinpoint what made your eyes light up when you read this job description. Pick one thing, make sure it's relevant to the role and company you're interviewing for, and try to weave in a story to help illustrate your point. If you're honest, which you should be, your enthusiasm will be palpable. Possible answer to what motivates you? I'm driven primarily by my desire to learn new things, big or small, and take on new responsibilities so that I'm constantly growing as an employee and contributing more to my team and organization. I spent several summers working as a camp counselor and felt most fulfilled when I volunteered to lead planning for a talent show, jumped in to help with scheduling logistics, and learned how to run pickups efficiently. All of that experience helped immensely when I took a step up to become the lead counselor last year, focused on operations, and that's what excites me so much about the opportunity to take on this managerial role for the after-school program. 34. What are your pet peeves? Here's another one that feels like a minefield. But it'll be easier to navigate if you know why an interviewer is asking it. Most likely, they want to make sure you'll thrive at their company and get a glimpse of how you deal with conflict. So be certain you pick something that doesn't contradict the culture and environment at this organization while still being honest. Then explain why and what you've done to address it in the past, doing your best to stay calm and composed. Since there's no need to dwell on something that annoys you, you can keep this response short and sweet. Possible answer to what are your pet peeves? It bothers me when an office's schedule is really disorganized, because in my experience, disorganization can cause confusion, which can hurt the motivation of the team. As a person who likes things to be orderly, I try to help keep my team on task while also allowing for flexibility. 35. How do you like to be managed? This is another one of those questions that's about finding the right fit both from the company's perspective and your own. Think back on what worked well for you in the past and what didn't. What did previous bosses do that motivated you and helped you succeed and grow? Pick one or two things to focus on and always articulate them with a positive framing, even if your preference comes from an experience where your manager behaved in the opposite way. Phrase it as what you would want a manager to do. If you can give a positive example from a great boss, it'll make your answer even stronger. Possible answer to: how do you like to be managed? I enjoy having my hands in a lot of different projects, so I like working with managers who allow their employees to experiment, be independent, and work cross-functionally with other teams. At the same time, I really welcome it when a boss provides me with support, guidance, and coaching. No one can do anything alone, and I believe when managers and employees collaborate together and learn from one another, everyone comes out on top. 36. Do you consider yourself successful? This question might make you uncomfortable, but you can think of it as an opportunity to allow the interviewer to get to know you better and to position yourself as an excellent choice for this job. First off, make sure you say yes. Then pick one specific professional achievement you're proud of that can be tied back to the role you're interviewing for, one that demonstrates a quality, skill, or experience that would help you excel in this position. You'll want to explain why you consider it a success, talk about the process in addition to the outcome, and highlight your own accomplishment without forgetting your team. Zooming in on one story will help if you feel awkward tooting your own horn. Possible answer to: do you consider yourself successful? I do consider myself successful, even though I'm early in my professional career. I took a full load of classes in my junior year of college because I wanted to take that summer to volunteer for a human rights organization overseas. I knew that I needed to make sure I was on track with my major, minor, and graduation requirements. It was difficult to juggle it all with my part-time job, which I kept to help account for the fact that I wouldn't be earning money over the summer, and there were a few sleepless nights. But it was worth the hard work. I ended the year with a 3.9 GPA and the opportunity to volunteer for the agency in Ghana without falling behind my graduation timeline. For me, success is about setting a goal and sticking with it, no matter how hard it is, and this experience was proof that I could be successful even when there's a lot to balance, which I know there always is at a nonprofit like this one. 37. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If asked this question, be honest and specific about your future goals, but consider this: A hiring manager wants to know A, if you've set realistic expectations for your career, B, if you have ambition, aka, this interview isn't the first time you're considering the question, and C, if the position aligns with your goals and growth. Your best bet is to think realistically about where this position could take you and answer along those lines. And if the position isn't necessarily a one-way ticket to your aspirations, it's okay to say that you're not quite sure what the future holds, but that you see this experience playing an important role in helping you make that decision. Possible answer to: where do you see yourself in 5 years? In 5 years, I'd like to be in a position where I know more about my longer-term career aspirations as a designer. I will have gotten experience working for a design agency and know more about the industry overall. I'll have grown my technical skills and learned how to take feedback from clients and incorporate it. And the way your agency is set up, I'll also have gotten the opportunity to design different kinds of deliverables, including websites, branding, and ad campaigns for different kinds of clients, to see where I really feel at home before settling on a focus. 38. How do you plan to achieve your career goals? Having goals shows interviewers you care, are ambitious, and can think ahead. Having a plan for how you'll achieve your goals demonstrates your self-motivation as well as organizational and time management skills. Finally, The fact that you've accomplished past goals you've set for yourself is proof of your ability to follow through. Altogether, these are indications that you can not only set and achieve goals of your own, but also help your prospective boss, team, and company do the same. To craft your answer, make sure you focus on 1 or 2 goals in detail, explain why the goals are meaningful, communicate what milestones are coming up, highlight past successes, and connect back to this job. Possible answer to how do you plan to achieve your career goals? My current goal is to earn the CPA license so that I'm fully certified and prepared to contribute in a junior staff accounting job. My undergraduate degree is in finance and I completed an accounting internship with XYZ company last summer. While I was there, I decided that each week I'd ask one person from a different team to coffee to learn about their job and career path. Not only did those conversations impress upon me the importance of getting my CPA as soon as possible, they also helped me realize I was eager to pursue forensic accounting, which is why I'm so excited about the opportunity to join this team. In order to ensure I earn my CPA this year, I enrolled in NASBA workshops, created a study schedule to keep myself on track, and will be taking my first trial test in 3 weeks. I plan on taking the actual test within the next 3 to 6 months. 39. What are your career aspirations? Career aspirations are bigger and loftier than career goals. With this question, interviewers are asking, what kind of career would make you happiest, while also being realistic? Your aspirations might revolve around what kind of company you'd like to work for, what tasks you'd like to do, who you'd like to help, or how you'd like to be seen by your colleagues. So to answer this question, talk about what would energize and fulfill you and connect it to the position you're interviewing for. Be specific about how this job will help you achieve your career aspirations. Possible answer to what are your career aspirations? After growing up in a food desert, my biggest professional aspiration is to help make healthy food more widely available and accessible regardless of where you live. I also love solving complex problems. Currently, as a project manager, I specialize in strategic planning and combine it with a natural ability to engage critical stakeholders, resulting in on-time and under-budget delivery. This role would help me use those skills to work on a mission I'm passionate about. I am determined to use these skills to help your organization guarantee our community has access to affordable, nutritious food and information to make healthy decisions. In the next 5 or so years, I would love to take on additional responsibility and be in a decision-making role to drive the mission beyond our community and support even more families in gaining access to nutritious food options. 40. What's your dream job? Along similar lines, the interviewer wants to uncover whether this position is really in line with your ultimate career goals. While an NBA star might get you a few laughs, a better bet is to talk about your goals and ambitions and why this job will get you closer to them. 41. What other companies are you interviewing with? Companies might ask you who else you're interviewing with for a few reasons. Maybe they want to see how serious you are about this role and team, or even this field, or they're trying to find out who they're competing with to hire you. On one hand, you want to express your enthusiasm for this job, but at the same time, you don't want to give the company any more leverage than it already has by telling them there's no one else in the running. Depending on where you are in your search, you can talk about applying to or interviewing for a few roles that have XYZ in common, then mention how and why this role seems like a particularly good fit. Possible answer to what other companies are you interviewing with? I'm interviewing with a few companies for a range of positions, but they all come down to delivering an excellent customer experience. I wanted to keep an open mind about how to best achieve that goal, but so far it seems that this role will really allow me to focus all of my energy on customer experience and retention, which I find very appealing. 42 What makes you unique? They genuinely want to know the answer, dia promises. Give them a reason to pick you over other similar candidates. The key is to keep your answer relevant to the role you're applying to. So the fact that you can run a 6-minute mile or crush a trivia challenge might not help you get the job, but hey, it depends on the job. Use this opportunity to tell them something that would give you an edge over your competition for this position. To figure out what that is, you can ask some former colleagues, think back to patterns you've seen in feedback you get, or try to distill why people tend to turn to you. Focus on one or two things and don't forget to back up whatever you say with evidence. Possible answer to what makes you unique. I basically taught myself animation from scratch. I was immediately drawn to it in college, and with the limited resources available to me, I decided to take matters into my own hands, and that's the approach I take in all aspects of my work as a video editor. I don't just wait around for things to happen, and when I can, I'm always eager to step in and take on new projects, pick up new skills, or brainstorm new ideas. 43 What should I know that's not on your resume? It's a good sign if a recruiter or hiring manager is interested in more than just what's on your resume. It probably means they looked at your resume, think you might be a good fit for the role, and want to know more about you. To make this wide-open question a little more manageable, try talking about a positive trait, a story, or detail that reveals a little more about you and your experience, or a mission or goal that makes you excited about this role or company. Possible answer to what should I know that's not on your resume? Well, one thing you won't find on my resume, the time I had to administer emergency CPR. Last year, I was at the lake when I saw a young girl who looked like she was drowning. I was a lifeguard in high school, so I swam out, brought her to shore, and gave her CPR. Although this was hopefully a one-time event, I've always been able to stay calm during stressful situations, figure out a solution, and then act. As your account manager, I'd use this trait to quickly and effectively resolve issues both within the team and externally. After all, obstacles are inevitable, especially in a startup environment. And if anyone needs CPR at the office beach party, well, I'm your woman. 44 What would your first few months look like in this role? Your potential future boss, or whoever else has asked you this question, wants to know that you've done your research, given some thought to how you'd get started, and would be able to take initiative if hired. In some interviews, you might even get the more specific, what would your first 30, 60, or 90 days look like in this role? So think about what information and aspects of the company and team you'd need to familiarize yourself with and which colleagues you'd want to sit down and talk to. You can also suggest one possible starter project to show you'd be ready to hit the ground running and contribute early on. This won't necessarily be the thing you do first if you do get the job, but a good answer shows that you're thoughtful and that you care. Possible answer to what would your first few months look like in this role? It's been exciting to hear about some of the new initiatives the company has started in our previous conversations, like the database project and the company-wide sync, but I know there's still a lot for me to learn. The first thing I'd do is line up meetings with the stakeholders involved in the projects I'd be tackling to help me figure out what I don't know and then go from there. Hopping into a database project halfway through can be tricky, but I'm confident that once I know what all the stakeholders are looking for, I'll be able to efficiently plot out our next steps and set appropriate deadlines. From there, I'll be focused on hitting the milestones that I've set for the team. 45 What are your salary expectations? The number one rule of answering this question is, figure out your salary requirements ahead of time. Do your research on what similar roles pay by using sites like PayScale and reaching out to your network. Be sure to take your experience, education, skills, and personal needs into account, too. From there, Muse career coach Jennifer Fink suggests choosing from one of three strategies. Give a salary range, but keep the bottom of your stated range toward the mid to high point of what you're actually hoping for, Fink says. Flip the question. Try something like, "That's a great question. It would be helpful if you could share what the range is for this role," Fink says. Delay answering. Tell your interviewer that you'd like to learn more about the role or the rest of the compensation package before discussing pay. And here's some more info on responding to a question about your salary requirements on an application form. Possible answer to: what are your salary expectations? Taking into account my experience and Excel certifications, which you mentioned earlier, would be very helpful to the team. I'm looking for somewhere between $42,000 and $46,000 annually for this role. But for me, benefits definitely matter as well. Your free on-site gym, the commuter benefits, and other perks could definitely allow me to be a bit flexible with salary. 46. What do you think we could do better or differently? This question can really do a number on you. How do you give a meaty answer without insulting the company or, worse, the person you're speaking with? Well, first, take a deep breath. Then start your response with something positive about the company or specific product you've been asked to discuss. When you're ready to give your constructive feedback, give some background on the perspective you're bringing to the table and explain why you'd make the change you're suggesting, ideally based on some past experience or other evidence. And if you end with a question, you can show them you're curious about the company or product and open to other points of view. Try, "Did you consider that approach here? I'd love to know more about your process." 47. When can you start? Your goal here should be to set realistic expectations that will work for both you and the company. What exactly that sounds like will depend on your specific situation. If you're ready to start immediately if you're unemployed, for example, you could offer to start within the week. But if you need to give notice to your current employer, don't be afraid to say so. People will understand and respect that you plan to wrap things up right. It's also legitimate to want to take a break between jobs, though you might want to say you have previously scheduled commitments to attend to and try to be flexible if they really need someone to start a bit sooner. Possible answer to when can you start? I am excited for the opportunity to join your team. I have several projects to wrap up in my current role at company. I plan to give them 2 weeks notice to make a smooth transition for my co-workers and will be happy to come on board with the team here after that time. 48. Are you willing to relocate? While this may sound like a simple yes or no question, it's often a little bit more complicated than that. The simplest scenario is one where you're totally open to moving and would be willing to do so for this opportunity. But if the answer is no, or at least not right now, you can reiterate your enthusiasm for the role, briefly explain why you can't move at this time, and offer an alternative, like working remotely or out of a local office. Sometimes it's not as clear-cut, and that's okay. You can say you prefer to stay put for XYZ reasons, but would be willing to consider relocating for the right opportunity. Possible answer to: are you willing to relocate? I do love living in Raleigh and would prefer to stay here. However, for the right opportunity I'd be willing to consider relocating if necessary. 49. How many tennis balls can you fit into a limousine? 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? Seriously? Well, seriously, you might get asked brain teaser questions like these, especially in quantitative jobs. But remember that the interviewer doesn't necessarily want an exact number. They want to make sure that you understand what's being asked of you, and that you can set into motion a systematic and logical way to respond. So take a deep breath and start thinking through the math. Yes, it's okay to ask for a pen and paper. 50 If you were an animal, which one would you want to be? Seemingly random personality test type questions like these come up in interviews because hiring managers want to see how you can think on your feet. There's no wrong answer here, but you'll immediately gain bonus points if your answer helps you share your strengths or personality or connect with the hiring manager. Pro tip: come up with a stalling tactic to buy yourself some thinking time, such as saying, "Now, that is a great question. I think I would have to say." 51 Sell me this pen. If you're interviewing for a sales job, your interviewer might put you on the spot to sell them a pen sitting on the table, or a legal pad, or a water bottle, or just something. The main thing they're testing you for? How you handle a high-pressure situation. So try to stay calm and confident and use your body language, making eye contact, sitting up straight, and more to convey that you can handle this. Make sure you listen, understand your customer's needs, get specific about the item's features and benefits, and end strong as though you were truly closing a deal. 52 Is there anything else you'd like us to know? Just when you thought you were done, your interviewer asks you this open-ended doozy. Don't panic, it's not a trick question. You can use this as an opportunity to close out the meeting on a high note in one of two ways, Zhang says. First, if there really is something relevant that you haven't had a chance to mention, do it now. Otherwise, you can briefly summarize your qualifications. For example, Zhang says, you could say, "I think we've covered most of it, but just to summarize, it sounds like you're looking for someone who can really hit the ground running. And with my previous experience, enumerate experience here, I think I'd be a great fit." 53 Do you have any questions for us? You probably already know that an interview isn't just a chance for a hiring manager to grill you, it's an opportunity to sniff out whether a job is the right fit from your perspective. What do you want to know about the position? The company? The department? The team? You'll cover a lot of this in the actual interview, so have a few less common questions ready to go. We especially like questions targeted to the interviewer. What's your favorite part about working here, or the company's growth? What can you tell me about your new products or plans for growth? If you're interviewing for a remote role, there are some specific questions you might want to ask related to that.